Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependent Dummy podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. Now, in your 20s, you're finding yourself exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in shit relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. Codependency is a way of being where we put the feelings, wants, and needs of others above our own in an unconscious attempt to meet our own feelings, wants, and needs. Sorry to break it to you, sis, but that is not sustainable. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. Let's get to it. Hey girl, hey. It's your hostess mostess, Marissa. Today's episode, validate your goddamn self. Pardon me for cursing, but seriously, I had to add emphasis so you can learn how to validate your goddamn self. Before we dive in, let's check in. Last week, we talked about how to honor your feelings. How is that going? Remember 4 steps: invite, identify, intentional action, and iterate. I am happy to report that I honored my feelings. Last week, I was corresponding with a potential guest on the show, and I was feeling off. I was reluctant, hesitant, doubtful, and ultimately, I sent an email and said, I've determined it's best that we don't interview. And I have lived to tell you all the tale. So, how are you doing with saying yes when you want to and no when you don't? Because it's truly okay. Baby girl, it is okay. We have a couple of new listeners. I think they're popping off in Romania. Thank you, Romania. Saudi Arabia, what's up? And to everybody else, thank you for being here, for taking time to work on your codependency, to help me share about my own healing from codependency that I'm still working on at times, apparently, as we've learned the past few months. And today is episode 42, Jackie Robinson's number. And it's also October. Happy October. Okay. Moving along. How to validate yourself. For starters, what does validate even mean? There is a funny comic of a gentleman walking up to the front desk and asking the secretary, can you please validate my parking? And she looks at him and she says, you did a wonderful job. And that is validate, right? It's to, according to Google, to validate means demonstrate or support the truth or value of someone or something, right? She said, you did a wonderful job. This is the example from Google. Okay, to validate in a sentence. In a healthy family, a child's feelings are validated. I was like, damn, Google, I see you using the word validate in the exact context that the Codepend on Me podcast needs you to use it. So I guess we could say that an antonym, right? Not an antonym, a opposing, contrasting sentence would be: in unhealthy families, children's feelings are invalidated. More on that in a bit. But first, let's look at the word validate and then self-validate. What is self-validation? My working definition is a practice of telling yourself the kind, loving, and compassionate words you need to hear. A way to see yourself, hear yourself, and remind yourself that you matter. That's my working definition. What are your thoughts? Let me know. Does that resonate? If so, how so? I also found online validation means that we are acknowledging another person's emotion, thoughts, experiences, values, and beliefs. I would argue validation means that we are acknowledging another person. We can also assume that self-invalidation is when we do the opposite. We tell ourselves the cruel, hateful, judgy, and shaming words we sense we deserve to hear. And it's a way to remain unseen, unheard, and remind ourselves we're trash. So, why is it so hard for codependents, especially, to validate themselves? Like most things in life, the way we interact with others, the way we don't interact with others, is often modeled to us by our parents and authority figures in our extended family, community, and society. The example on Google: in a healthy family, a child's feelings are validated. We codependents did not grow up in the healthiest families. We grew up in dysfunctional, hierarchical, toxic, emotionally distant, chaotic, neglectful. Girl, you go ahead and insert your sad adjective here. We grew up in that, whatever adjective you describe, we grew up in that type of family. Our feelings were not validated, sadly. Our needs were not validated. Our thoughts were invalidated, and our value, our core value, was not validated. It's likely that as your budding codependency developed, as a little girl, you discerned unconsciously that while you felt bad about yourself, you felt better when you got a compliment, when you received praise or acknowledgement by others. When others validated you, that emptiness, that sense that you are bad, that you lack value, the volume of that, it just turned down. I thought about a metaphor when you rev an engine, like vroom, vroom. There's the RPM gauge, and it just kind of, goes from left to right if you're pressing on the gas. And as codependents, I know in my experience, I thought very poorly of myself, right? That's what I was at a zero. And suddenly, when someone recognized how pretty, responsible, or smart I was, I, vroom, like it just the gauge of my RPM validation gauge, it would go up maybe halfway, maybe to 90 out of 100. That part of me that felt invalid was lacking support of my truth, of my value. It was not as present. Excuse me. We codependent dummies, I sense we take experiences like that, where we are complimented, where we receive praise, and we take it and we run with it. And we're all about extremes. And so we keep doing what we can to trigger that validation RPM to go as high as it can and to stay up there as long as it can, right? To avoid that pain of sensing internally deep down, I have no value. In preparing for this recording, it was hard. I had to sit and ponder and reflect on, why did you need others to validate you so desperately, Marissa? Like, just so badly. I've talked about how my older sister called me a desperate bitch when I was dating a homeless man. I was reaching and yearning and longing and pining, and you could just I never actually did it. I'm just making sure I didn't actually do it, but I think that metaphorically I would get on my knees and maybe like pull people, right? If they were leaving, if a boyfriend was breaking up with me, I would just hug on him and just like I didn't want to let go. I just really clung to others because desperately, because I just felt so poorly about myself, right? Invalid, invalidated, with no worth. And I thought about a couple examples to share with you. Times when I felt either validated, invalidated, initially validated, and then invalidated in my childhood. So, as I'm sharing, I want you to try to think of examples from your own life that resonate. And I did. I tried to go back because this starts young. I have more recent memories in my early 20s, late 20s as a teen. So, but those aren't the original. So I tried to go back. So here are these three. Towards the end of 6th grade, this is the validated. So I felt validated here. I tried out for the cheer team at my middle school. There were A lot of other girls trying out. The auditorium was full. I can't remember precisely, but I would argue there were between 100 and 150 girls trying out. And maybe 20 of us made the cut. And I am talking like this because I believe there were two teams. That wasn't very nice, but this is the Codependent podcast, so we're taking dummy back. And there were two teams, I believe a 7th and an 8th grade team. I obviously was trying out for 7th grade, and it was 5 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tryouts were on Friday. You went in a group of 3, and there was a panel of maybe 3 or 4 judges, did the routine. And then I remember on Saturday, they posted a piece of paper in the office window, and we could go and look, see if we made it. And I recall when my dad, a couple of friends, and I drove down, looked at the list, and we scanned. Most of my friends, like, we made it. And there was Marissa Esquibel. And my dad was there, and he said, I knew you'd make it. I knew it. I told you, Marissa. I felt very validated in that moment. I sensed that he was recognizing my dedication, my talent, and effort. I felt seen. Obviously, that stuck with me. Next example, when I felt invalidated. Again, around 6th grade, my maternal grandmother came to visit us for winter break. Excuse me. And for homework, those 2 weeks off school, I had an assignment where I had to write 25 poems. And I'm raising my voice because I'm not 100% sure. And also a decent amount of poems on 25 topics. And I did it. I was very committed, and I do recall enjoying that assignment. So picture me, we're off for 2 weeks, technically could be doing pretty much anything around the house. And I was sitting at the computer, typing away and pondering topics like summer and friendship and Mother's Day. And I banged these poems out. I didn't notice my grandmother noticing me. And one day, as I was working, she looked at me, right? Must have been in awe of my work ethic, while most children would be watching television and eating delicious candy. She looked at me and she pointed at me and she remarked, "This girl, she's going somewhere." I remember thinking, wow, thank you, Grandma. Validated. I felt very seen. I felt like I mattered, like I would matter. She was predicting I would matter. And I also remember at about the same time, my twin was one of those children meeting the stereotype for winter break, and she was sitting on the couch near me watching TV. And my dad was there too. My grandma had just complimented me and my work ethic. And then he said to her, Swing is going somewhere too. And that may be true, Dad. And also, it doesn't have to be a constant and chronic competition here. Our worths, our values, the fact that we are or aren't going somewhere doesn't necessarily have to be dependent on the other. Or we don't have to feel poorly while the other receives validation. I can't have value on my own. That was a confusing moment. My grandma had just recognized me, and in an effort to comfort my twin, who maybe was watching TV and not paying too much attention, or maybe had gotten a compliment from my grandma the day before about her amazing athleticism, wasn't bothered. So, validated, somewhat invalidated, or just compared to, right? My worth is related to my twins. So there's that example. And the last is around the same time. My older sister had or was going to her senior prom in the most beautiful turquoise sequins dress. It was stunning. I remember my dad, my twin sister, and myself, we were fawning over her. And I made the innocent and cliched little sister remark and said, I want to wear that dress to my prom. And my dad said, Marissa, you won't be able to wear that. It won't fit you. Your twin, she might, but you won't fit in that dress. And invalidated, unseen, unheard. Apparently, my ideas don't matter. And 6 years from now, we know what my body size is going to be. Right? As a 11, 12-year-old, I sensed what I was conveying was I want that. I want what my older sister is experiencing right now. I want others to fawn over me. I want to wear a pretty dress. I want to be equal to her. I want to do the same thing. And my dad said, not gonna fit. That stuck 2. Here are 3 examples that I remember fairly vividly at 33 years old. Validated, validated slash invalidated, invalidated. Excuse me. And there are many more of validated and invalidated. I sense that overall, the invalidating experiences, they weigh heavier on our hearts. And they lead us to seek more validation than those validating moments. My dad did not intend to have me seek validation from others when those comments, those quick, unconscious, knee jerk comments were made. And at the same time, as children, as young women, we are so, I don't even want to say so, we are impressionable little innocent, naive girls. And if our parents, if our authority figures say something, especially about us, that is invalidating, we tend to believe them. And it's a process. So, we didn't initially get validation from others, even though we weren't conscious of this, or we didn't get validated enough. B, we were unable to provide it to ourselves. Hard to say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Uh, it's your dad, it's your mom, it's your teacher, it's your babysitter. It's hard to argue with that. And C, this is my very clean ABC list. C, we have grown up in families, communities, and societies that are heavily based, heavily dependent on other validation, be it compliments, tryouts, awards, grades, acceptance into universities, job status, income, and so on. As I was sharing, what memories came up for you regarding times when you were either validated or invalidated by others as a child, really trying to go back? Over time, my tiny codependent heart turned against me, where I continued to have validating and invalidating experiences with others, interacting with others. And also, I really started to invalidate myself. I really didn't need other people to invalidate me since I became very practiced in that skill, where I would tell myself things that were not kind, not loving, not compassionate. I didn't see myself. I didn't hear myself, and I did not believe that I mattered. I've shared this before, how I got to a point where I fundamentally believed to my core I had to work twice as hard to be half as worthy as my sisters, peers, and everyday humans. I received validation, but like losing weight on a diet or making an income goal, getting into some university, right? Once we're there, we've lost the weight, we've made that money, we got into that campus. It's still not enough. I wanted and needed more validation. And as a child, that makes sense. As a young woman, it makes sense that that is how I'm interacting with the world. What this looked like in my early 20s, one example, because I was seeking validation from everyone and anyone, it turned up the most, the sharpest memories come up in my relationship with ex-boyfriend, who I talked about with Olivia Rodrigo's Codependent Anthem series. I was seeking fulfillment for my unmet needs for validation in my young adult relationship with him. We were 21, 22, and I relied on this boy to validate me. Mister, please tell me all the kind, compassionate, and patient things I yearned to hear. I longed for him to see me, hear me, and convey that I mattered. And this was most poignant on our nightly calls while we dated long distance. It would be 7, 8, 9 p.m. Of course, I had been anxious since 5 p.m. And we would text, check in, and I'm sure most often I would call him. We talk, I tell him all about my day. Oh, I did this and I'm so amazing in this area of life and I kicked ass here and you should be proud of me because and you should love me because. I wasn't actually saying that, but that's what I was trying to convey. And we'd get off the phone and I got to share about how good I am. When we didn't talk, when he fell asleep, when he went to the gym late, when he passed out, when he was working late, I lost it. I recall when we wouldn't speak and I would think consciously, why the fuck did I get out of bed then? Why did I even do those things if I don't get to tell/report to him? And I needed it. I needed that call to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel like I mattered. I could not provide that to myself. And I was relying on a 21-year-old man boy to fulfill that need. Where do you sense you're seeking validation from currently? Is there a person, an individual in particular, who you're seeking that from the most? Where does that unmet need come from? Excuse me. To review, we know where this self-invalidation comes from. We are clear it is a part of our lives. And we need to recognize how unsustainable it is. If we're able to recognize the unsustainability, we can start to validate our goddamn selves. Since our boyfriends, our parents, our employers, our you fill in the blank girl, they will never, ever, ever ultimately fulfill your need to feel valued. We have to do it ourselves. That is what being a codependent diamond is all about. Interdependence, where others can acknowledge your worth, they can validate your efforts, and you can also simultaneously provide yourself with the words you need to hear and meet that need largely on your own. Okay, we're not going all the way into independent. On the spectrum, independent, codependent, we're hanging out in interdependence. So how? All this leads to the how. First step, if you haven't already, listen to the codependent dilemma that aired on June 21st of 2021. Second step, download the self-validation 30-day challenge at www.codependent.com/challenge. I will include it in the show notes. You can just click it on your phone. Those are the steps. That's how you do it. And to add, you're going to receive the 30-day self-validation challenge guide, and it'll include some more history on self-validation, a daily script for you to follow, and a daily tracker to take on the challenge for 30 days. We are all about commitments, the long-term view, process rather than results. I already said commitment, dedication, and patience. And so starting with 30 days as a foundation, it's a start. And then, girl, you can just keep going. I've kept going. If you listen to the episode, Nathan and I both committed to do this. He's been doing 90 days. I'm going to share his update in a bit. So check it out. I will not go into full detail here about the guide, but I will share the daily/nightly, whenever you want to complete the self-validation process. I'm going to share the script. And we'll do a visualization of you actually doing and using and implementing the self-validation challenge script. So I want you to picture yourself at the end of your day today, in solitude, most likely in bed. And I want you to take 3 deep breaths. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Using the voice memo app on your phone, I want you to picture pressing record, and then you complete the following 10 sentences. Number 1, today and describe your day. What did you do today? Where did you go? Who did you see? Just describe your day to yourself. Number 2, I'm proud of myself for. What are you proud of yourself for today? Number 3, I practiced patience by. When were you patient? With who? How? Number 4, I was kind and compassionate to myself when. When did you practice kindness and compassion for yourself? Number 5, slowly but surely, I'm getting better at. What are you getting better at? Slowly but surely. Excuse me. Remembering, it's a process. If we have learned, if we've been conditioned to do something, right, this way of being, it's going to take time, slowly but surely, to unlearn, decondition. What are you getting better at? Number 6, I asserted myself by. Number 7, I kicked ass at. Number 8, I was honest with. Number 9, I love myself because today. And number 10, I'm grateful to myself for. Keep picturing yourself. You just answered these 10 questions. You completed these 10 sentences. And picture you stop the recording and then you take another 3 deep breaths. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. You sense you could do that on a nightly basis for the next 30 days. Do you sense you could start the practice of validating your goddamn self? Again, you can go to www.codependemy.com/challenge. That is your homework, to go to the website and sign up. Here is Nathan's update from 90 days of practicing self-validation. I asked him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Question:
How have things changed after 90 days of practicing self-validation? Nathan's answer. First of all, it's crazy to think it's already been 90 days since I first started doing this. I truly feel like my life has changed and changed for the better. I'm way more positive and optimistic. I feel like I have more energy and confidence. And most importantly, I feel like I am living the life I want to and being true to myself and what I want to do with my life. I don't feel like I'm living my life for anyone else anymore. I'm living it for me, and I'm really starting to love and accept myself. Question number 2. What themes have you noticed? Nathan's response. I've noticed that I've been focusing on smaller wins or accomplishments. There have been a few times where I've been out with my girlfriend, either at her place or mine, on a weekday, and instead of staying up really late and enjoying each other's company and doing whatever, I've been setting a boundary and saying we should call it a night and go to bed as we have to get up for work and stuff in the morning. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, it is. Yes, Nathan, that is a lot. The old me would have stayed up as late as she wanted and sacrificed a good night's sleep and risked being very tired for work the next day if it meant making her happy and doing what she wanted. So even making small decisions like that, I really appreciate about myself, and it's been helping me be less codependent. Question number 3. When has it been hard to remember? Nathan's answer. The hardest times to remember were definitely Friday and Saturday nights, as I usually have plans with friends or family. So what I started doing was having a very long call and check in with myself on Sunday, where I would reflect on the weekend and major highlights which still stuck with me from the last week. And I also started reflecting and talking about what I would be looking forward to next week. It's helped me stay positive and hopeful. What an idea. How creative. Number 4, what have you learned about yourself? Nathan's answer. I have learned that sometimes I can talk about myself for a long time. Haha. But more importantly, I learned that I have a lot of value and my life has purpose. I am my own person and I should be living my life for me and no one else. I learned that it's okay that I made mistakes in the past, that I was codependent in some of my relationships before. I've accepted it, and this validation challenge, as well as the people in my life, have really helped me realize what I was doing, and I do feel that I won't make the same mistakes I made in the past in regards to codependency. Or if I do, I know I will be much more aware of it. We'll be able to deal with it early on. Yes. Number 5, are you sensing a stronger connection with your internal compass? Nathan's answer, yes, absolutely. I definitely feel like I'm not only back on track to being the person I know I am, but the person I want to be. And even when it comes to my relationships, the ones with family, friends, with my new girlfriend, I definitely feel much more, quote, woke, end quote, or aware of my old codependent traits and actions. I'm much more in touch with myself and what I want in my life and where it's headed. It's crazy how the self-validation challenge has opened my eyes and my life to so much. Final question, are you feeling less codependent? Nathan's answer, yes, I am definitely feeling less codependent. I've noticed myself making decisions that are right for me and the best for me in both the long and short term. I'm not sacrificing my happiness, what I truly want, just to make others happy anymore. And that's not to say that I'm being selfish. I'm just not compromising and sacrificing my happiness and giving in all the time just to please others and live the life or make a decision that they want me to. I've been more open about how I'm feeling and about what I want and what's going on in my life. The people in my life have told me that they really appreciate it and are way more understanding and honest with me too. Let's just have a round of applause for Nathan. I just read those fresh. I didn't edit them, so I'm Oh, girl, go to www.codependent.com/challenge. Potentially 90 days from now, you could be writing me the same email. I would love that because it would mean that you are putting a stop to playing small, taking up some goddamn space, and validating your goddamn self. So, codependent.com/challenge. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, listener. Thank you for listening. It's episode 42. I want to leave you with this quote. You own everything that happened to you. Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better. That is by another recovered codependent, Anne Lamott. I will see you next week.
Hey girl, it's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster, I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. You can find me on Instagram at Therapy with Marissa. Email me, marissa@codependummy.com. Check out codependummy.com for more information on the show. And baby girl, a subscribe, rating, and review would be much appreciated. Till next time, I want you to remember, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you think that you don't matter, know that you matter to me. I want you to go out there so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. And now, the disclaimer. Girl, this is not therapy and I am not your therapist. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, or guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional service. If you want or need a professional, please find one.